you're more religiously inclined than you think. Something. Somewhere.
So how much does being a Jehovah's Witness actually help you?
Oh, a great deal. It was an effort first off, Morrissey. It was a good 4 years effort, but now it comes easy. I enjoy it.
And do you know
I like
many
people,
other people who are Jehovah's Witnesses?
Oh, yeah. It certainly is. 3.5 million of us.
I have always admired Viv Nicholson because of her background and the way she fought against her background of total poverty and practical destitution.
I was happy in the haze of a drunken hour, but heaven knows I'm miserable now.
Her whole story of winning the polls and her husband's dying and the disasters that followed and the way the newspaper tabloids haunted her and tried to drag her down and decry her as an individual. But constantly through the face of this disaster she had a remarkable resilience and fortitude and humour and a great sense of living, which I think is quite rare.
I've come, when the money's gone down, I've come down, you know. You can only be there if you've got it, so you come down in stages, and that's how I got down to where I am. It's the rock bottom now. And I'm enjoying it. I just feel trapped, you know. And it's nice to say, would you like to come to London to sit with Morrissey in a car, you know? And,
Surely.
It gets me out.
In my life, oh, why do I give valuable time to people who don't care if I
I like the fact that when punk came along, that it did demystify the whole process of making records, that people realised that if they knocked over a few phone boxes and sold somebody's motorbike, they could raise enough money to put out a single. But in those days, a lot of bands, having done that, then broke up because they were perfectly happy to do that. They'd achieved something that they wanted to achieve. They didn't see it as part of a kind of lifelong career process.
When punk began, I was 16, 17. It meant a great deal to me because within the Manchester area, it was very, very exciting, and it was very big, and it was very important. And there were a lot of key voices within the punk movement who came from Manchester. So therefore, special attention was paid to the area, and it was very thriving, very busy. Here were people practically in one's own backyard who were suddenly known throughout the country, because there you could see possibilities for yourself, if you like.
what do I get? Oh, what do I get? Chicken guitar solo.
Personally, I thought all those groups were crap. Because it was at a time when I was getting into crafting songs and writing chord changes and moving things towards middle eights and all those technical building of songs kind of techniques. And none of those groups could do that. I mean, I understand now that it was probably a good thing for music, but at the time it meant nothing to me. The girl groups and Phil Spector was a big influence, the Redbird record label. That was really my main inspiration in trying to play the music that we ended up playing. Get away from particularly synthesizer duo kind of music. Drum machine orientated disco music was quite a big thing even then. And I was delving into the Redbird collection. A lot of Lieber and Stoller stuff, mainly they were and probably still are my favourite writers. There was one day Joe Moss gave me a video which was really important to us now of a Lieber and Stoller interview. It was, as I said, we're a really big influence. And where one of them, I can't remember which, said he just got to the point where he knew who the other guy was and they hadn't met, and he thought, well, if we're ever going to get together, I'll just go over there and knock on his door and say, you know, let's get together and write songs, which sounded very, very idealistic, but it caught my imagination, probably because I was, and I'm an idealistic kind of guy, and so that's what I did.
I think Johnny was the instigator, really. You know, he just went round and knocked on Morrissey's door, basically.
Then he got Mike in, and he phoned me up.
Learn to love me and assemble their wings. Now, today, tomorrow, and always. My only weakness is a listed crime. But last night the plans for a future war was all I saw on Channel 4. Shoplifters of the world, unite and take over. Shoplifters of the world, hand it over, hand it over, hand it over.
The way our relationship worked right from the word off, without getting too soody about it, was that I saw a lot of good things, obviously, in him that I didn't see myself, and vice versa. And he didn't say much, and he just let me tell him what I wanted to do, and just sat and kind of watched me and checked out my shoes and checked out my hair and all those things. And I was taking quite a chance because I was very, very fashion conscious and had a very strong image. I wasn't quite sure about what he was going to look like or what he was into at all, and walked in his house, and he was really taken aback when hello, so on. And so he invited me in. First thing I saw was this huge cardboard James Dean crucifix thing. So I thought, well, that's not too bad. I'm on a winner here. And he brought me into his room, and there were all these great pictures of with James Dean and a couple of Elvis pictures and stuff. And immediately it became obvious that we had a hell of a lot in common as regards our feelings towards pop culture and records generally. He gave me a whole series of songs, batches of words, and just to see them on paper, I've literally never seen anything like it. Even as a fan of serious, quote, serious writers, you know, the Dylans and so on, because the first thing I saw was Suffer Little Children.
I did have a fixation on the Moors murders, that I was perhaps a potential victim, if you like, a little bit younger than the victims. It was a very strong subject in Manchester throughout the 1960s, very, very strong, very almost unspoken thing. It was too horrific for people to think about and to discuss. I was taken aback completely because the content was so serious, but at the same time very, very poignant and poetic. And I just looked at them, and straight away I worked out the kind of the music that these images evoked.
This is no easy ride, for a child cries, oh find me nothing more. We are on a solemn estimate. We may be dead and we may be gone, but we will be right by your side until the day you die. This is no easy ride. We will haunt you when you lie. Yes, you could say we're a team. You might sleep.
Our immediate goal was for there to be a single with a great song on the A side. Whether it had our names on the label as the group was secondary. It was our names being in the brackets, which was much more important. Very into the songwriting ethic.
In spite of strong interest from major record companies, the Smiths signed with the independent label Rough Trade. Morrissey was able to have complete control over their record sleeves, which featured a series of cover stars rather than the group itself. Many people had expected the group to sign with the Manchester label Factory, which had embodied the city's musical image since the late 70s.
It was absolutely crucial that we didn't sign to Factory Records. Without I'm putting down, not giving them, discrediting them for anything that they've done in the past, because they have been very important. But you've got to understand that their time was a few years before mine. I wasn't a punk rocker. It meant nothing to me, I was too young.
I think it's quite typical of newer groups to retaliate and laugh at the previous generation somewhat and do completely the opposite, whatever that may be and whatever it may entail. And within the Smiths, there was certainly a great deal of that, because within the Manchester area, quite obviously, Factory was the establishment.
The Smiths quickly achieved a degree of success that was unprecedented for a band on an independent label. They produced a stream of hit singles and albums, and also became one of the most popular and powerful live acts in the country.
I felt that we had something that was ours exclusively. Image-wise, beads, a certain kind of femininity, and something which was no one else could really grasp, and which was like totally ours, and which belonged not to like just Manchester young people, but to my friends.
I thought it was quite important to come forth and confront people and to look people in the eyes and say quite specific, strong things, instead of poetic, esoteric, veiled things that people had to, people needed streams of notes to understand. It was very important just to say, but with words, of course.
This beautiful creature must die. This beautiful creature must die. A death for no reason, and death for no reason is murder. And the flesh you so fancifully fry is not succulent, tasty or kind. It's death for no reason, and death for no reason is murder. And the card that you caught with a smile, it is murder.
Once it gets into people's living rooms, and it's curious, and it's not instantly definable and instantly not able to instantly categorize it, people get confused and unfriendly.
Once a band that has started out on the programs that I do, or on the programs that Kid Jensen and now Janice Long do, starts to achieve some kind of success outside that kind of nighttime Radio 1 area, it's very convenient for DJs and producers who don't like it to say, oh, well, this is a kind of John Peel band, and therefore to not program the records.